I got to push my buttons to get the right buttons in the right order.
There you
Welcome,
go.
everyone. Welcome to day five. This is the day five of the 5 day challenge. So you made it. You made it all the way through. I hope that you have found significant value in here in terms of the um, changing your mindset and going out and look how you're going to look for your next or your first sales superstar. And I think we've covered a lot in this challenge since Monday. We've spent a lot of time on mindset, and I do that because I think the thing that I've run into the most over the last 7, 8 years working with clients is that that's the biggest challenge. And it doesn't matter if it's the CEO or a sales manager who's been in place for a decade or an HR person. It's just the idea of that we're gonna challenge these salespeople. We're gonna treat them like a prospect's gonna treat them, so we can tell if they're really going to be that sales superstar and look at how they respond and see if they can be articulate and not make any assumptions about these guys. I think is the biggest part of this, and I think it's the part that it gets the biggest pushback. Um, and I've told you a couple of stories about clients who have said like, "Oh, this is going to be hard, and I don't know if I can do this." And once they've gone through it a couple of times and they see that nobody freaks out, that it isn't that challenging, and frankly, it's liberating for those of us doing the interviews, because our objective is to really discern these and disqualify these candidates. So I've spent a lot of time talking about mindset, um, because it's important. It's different than what we've talked about. The other aspect of mindset is this: like, let's stop selling the role. Let's stop selling our company early on in this process. Even with the ad framework, right? We're not really talking about our company. We're not talking about how great we are and what our culture is. Every once in a while, a company really wants to highlight that, but we don't even talk about it from the sense of the company and what that history is. We're talking about it from what we're looking to do going forward. We're putting it in the right context for this candidate to come through. And we're describing who we're looking for. Again, we want that candidate to know that, man, this is me. When I read this, I understand what they're looking for, and I think this might be me. I'm going to take a swing at this. Makes it easier to find somebody who is already employed, and they read an ad like that, and it's like, oh wow, that might be a better gig than what I got. Maybe I should do a little investigation. And that is it just makes it easier to find, and that's what we're trying to do with this challenge is give you steps that are going to make this process easier, and save your time and save resources. And I hope some of you have gone out to the website at helixsalesdevelopment.com and looked at the research page and figured out what it really cost you, not some generic number, but what it really cost you to have a hiring mistake. And then what those ghosts really cost, having those old people linger. I remember I had a position. I called a couple of accounts that they gave me. Like, these guys are legacies, right? They have to work with us. So I called up this one facilities director, and I said, hey, the new guy, and he's like, look, I don't want anything to do with your company. I hate your company. I hate the guy that runs the company. You're just, I don't want anything to do with you. You're probably a nice guy, but I don't want anything to do with you. And I'm like, all right, I heard what you said. And I'm not going to bug you, but before I go, right, can you give me something to go on as to, what that is? And, he gave me a story that made sense. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to bother you. So I would call him up once a year, and you still hate me. You still hate the company. And he would always laugh and say, yeah, we got it covered. We're good. And then that probably happened 3 or 4 years. And in the fifth year, he wasn't there anymore. And the guy was like, I've been looking to try to figure out how to get a hold of you. Come on in. So I think I tell you the story because we want to be, we want that person who's going to be persistent. We want that person who's going to come along and try something different, and it's going to be able to follow our processes. So this system is structured so that we can improvise a little bit. We can modify the steps to fit us, right? If we've got a really clearly defined sales process, if we've got a way that we train our salespeople, if we have some assessments that we use for reasons that helps us manage people, we want to do that. This is all fine. We can work this in. If we want to have 3 interviews instead of 2, if we want to have 4 interviews and we can kind of put them together, as long as we get them done in that 2 to 3 week window, I think this works. That whole process gives us the ability to have some flexibility and make this your own. That the phone screen was something that we talked about earlier this week, and that's a great way if we're focused on understanding how this person thinks. Can they follow direction? Are they able to be articulate about the things that we've asked them to do and the questions we ask? Right? That this gives us a little bit of insight. And as we move along the process, we're diving in a little bit deeper with each of these people. Right? And the magic of this whole thing is that assessment. It's something that some people have trouble believing that it's that accurate. And I'm with you. I struggled with how accurate it would be. And every time I challenged the guys that wrote it, and they're like, do what you want. Hire the guy. If you don't think he's got a responsibility issue, knock yourself out. And every time I did that, every time I challenged it and I went against it, I found, oh crap, this guy doesn't have the responsibility. The excuse making started. Oh, his need to be liked is that high. He has that issue. I had one one salesperson that we evaluated. She was an existing employee, and she had a 1%, and she needed to be liked, which means that 99% of her needed to be liked. She really needed to be loved by her prospects. So she had a hard time challenging people. And what that looked like, what that sounded like for the manager, was that she would get angry when they didn't return her phone call. She would get angry with her prospects because she wasn't getting them to respond. Now, she wasn't providing them value, right? She was just, pitching, and she was, answering some simple questions. She wasn't diving in, but that need to be liked had to be overcome. And because we understood that, that sales manager could coach her salesperson in a completely different way. Now, she never got to be the salesperson that doesn't care and only worries about being respected, but she got better because we knew and we could help her. Right? That's the takeaway I want. You're going to get information, whether, the first part is that, red, green, yellow, right? Recommended, might be okay, worthy. I mean, it's like stay away from, not recommended. We got to learn to trust that. And that's part of what we do when we work with somebody and they secure one of those licenses. That's a big part of what we do on the front end to help everybody understand this, how to use it, how to trust it, what to look for if they're doubting it. So that comes through. With yesterday, we spent a lot of time on interviewing. We talked about there's a way to do like a 30-minute to 45-minute quick interview on the resume, how to go through a resume and look for what I eloquently call bullshit in the resume, right? We should expect some of that, but how to deal with that, how to check that out. We introduced some structured questions that we could ask. And I think the thing there, that once you see a couple of examples of that, you can go in and start to create your own as it relates to your business. You take that idea, that kernel, and move it towards what's really important to you. What I'm trying to do here is help you see that we should dig deeper and that you can dig deeper. So one of the things that the team showed me here, let me pull this. Yeah, there were some questions about the interviewing. So let me share the document that we shared yesterday. Let me pull this up real quick, folks. Bear with me just a moment. Talk amongst yourselves. Here we go. So this document, the question was about how to tee this up was one of the questions. So this opening script that's on the screen, the thank you so much for meeting with us, right? Open it up, be polite, right? Because they've taken some time. I want to apologize in advance because we only have a short period of time here. We scheduled this for 30 minutes. And there's so much I want to learn about you, right? We're still being friendly. So the question that I think it was John who asked that as we get into this, that you're going to ask a lot of questions and we might interrupt them, and that we tell them that up front. The reason that we're doing that is because we're going to stay on track. We want to control this interview. So when we start to hear that salesperson ramble a little bit, start to go off of the answer that we're looking for, or we're convinced that the answer isn't going to get to where we want it to go, and they start to ramble, right? So we want to cut them off, but it feels rude during that moment, right? But if we tell them up front, hey, I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, and I'm trying to be cognizant of our time together today. And there's so much I want to learn. So if I ask a question, I think I get the answer, I might interrupt you. So don't think I'm rude. I just want to be respectful of our time. So if we deliver that message and we tell them that up front, and then we might have to remind them here, it's like, Bob, we're interviewing Bob. So, hey, Bob, I think that answers my question. I appreciate you taking the time. Let me ask my next question. And then you give them the next question. So is that rude? I don't think so. Some people might interpret it that. I'm not saying somebody's right or wrong, but if we tell them up front what to expect and we live up to that, we're being a professional. It's no different than going into a meeting and saying, hey, we have 30 minutes and there's a couple of things that I was hoping to cover, A and B. What were you hoping to achieve in these 30 minutes? We get that down. So where would you like to start? Right? That is incredibly professional, elevates the sales profession. It's respectful of everybody's time, and so few salespeople do that. So I think if we put that into the opening script, that's the difference for folks. If you're thinking it's rude to interrupt people, it might be if we don't tell them that's what we're going to do. Right? We're going to tell them that up front. So that upfront piece is there. And these big questions here. The other question was from Tom around the significant opportunity, right? He thought that might be not enough information to give somebody to have them pull it out of their memory bank. That's fine. Put it in the context that you want. The more you can refine that, the more you narrow them in. But you could say something to the effect of, hey, in the last 6 months, I'm sure you had a significant deal that you're proud of, that you closed, that didn't have anything to do with price. What I'd like to hear from you is what that was, how you got there, where it started from. So can you give me a little overview of that? Right? So you can dial that in to a dollar amount, to a value question, whatever you want to do. So there's flexibility here to use this structure to get what you want out of this. So I love the fact that we're thinking about these things. I love the fact that we're even challenging ourselves at this point. So I hope that helps answer those questions. Let me go back to my slides. So today, our goal was to, I want to do a little review. I want to get to the onboarding piece of this, and then I want to kind of go back to that crazy little offer I made you the other day. So I have 3 checklists that I want to run through. So what should we be doing? What should we be thinking about before we bring the person in? These are the internal things that we can be thinking about. Some of them are obvious. Some of them are be like, oh, wow, we hadn't thought about that. And yeah, we've done that in the past, and we've had to kind of scramble at the end. So that's sort of our goal with the pre-boarding checklist is what I call it. Sort of like getting on the airplane. There's a sort of a pre-boarding call. And then there's some critical questions we need to answer that I think get left out of a lot of onboarding practices, we have a tendency to go right to product. We don't talk about who our targets are. We don't talk about who our customers. We don't talk about what they look like. We don't talk about our own sales process. We don't talk about our own methodology enough. Some of us do, some of us don't. I'm just making a generalization, and this is what this challenge is about, is to challenge and get you to think a little bit differently. Excuse me. So there's going to be some of those critical questions that we want you to think about, and then there's a piece that I stole from a client from a few years ago, that they did this. At first it seemed like this silly idea of like onboarding somebody, and then once they've completed the process that you've designed, we have this little graduation. And it's not a ceremony where people put on the cap and gown and walk over and get a little diploma, but it's more of whatever you want it to be. We did one, it was in May, for somebody that got through their graduation. We had hired two people, and they both did well. They both graduated from the graduate on time. One of them graduated a little early, which tells us something, and we'll get into that in a minute. But if we tell them you need to do these 10 things in the first 30 to 45 days, that candidate who's like, I'm an overachiever and I'm a superstar, I'm gonna get this done more rapidly than you think. I'm going to get it done early, right? And they do the work, and they actually do it well. We celebrate that, right? They can get through it. I mean, in this one sales rep, he actually said, "Hey, I think I'm ready. I'd like to run through what we're going to do." So the graduation ceremony was the graduation process from onboarding was to do some role plays with me in the presence of the president of the organization, and to cut through a couple of things, right? They have a positioning statement. They had to have the ability to talk a little bit about their product at a very high level in the context of their customer. There was a couple other criteria that they had set. So he's like, "Hey, can we run through this? I think I could get this scheduled next week." So ran through it. He did great. Gave him some notes, and he killed it. So they had a little swag box that they gave their people at the beginning, and what they did is they sort of upped the ante here at the next level. He got a couple of cool items that were logoed, and they gave him a little gift card to take his wife out to celebrate, and they gave him a little goofy little trophy. So it was kind of cool. We'll get into that. So let me stop sharing this and go to my next piece. Here we go. Boom. So the pre-boarding checklist is what we want to talk about. So there's a couple of stats in this document that I think are important for us to think about. As I've said before, we could go through this process, identify this superstar, hire them, cut the deal with them. They sign up, they show up for onboarding from the first day, and we can screw it up there by not being ready. I may have shared this story with you, but I mean, my first experience with this one company, I got hired in 07, beginning of 08. And it was just a terrible time for looking for a job. Economy was awful. So I took this position, and the onboarding experience was indicative of the rest of the experiences. And I should have walked away, but it was I'd signed up, and I just have this level of commitment. I'm going to make something work. So there was nobody ready. They weren't ready for me. They told me to come in on Tuesday, not a Monday, right? Because they have a lot of meetings on Monday. So I thought that was a good sign. I show up, they sit in a conference room for, a good 90 minutes. And, it was like, "Oh yeah, you're here. We should probably get your HR stuff going." Right. And it was just this whole thing. Nobody took me to lunch. It was a joke. And then I finally got these books that they wanted me to read, these engineering books that were just, engineering books, right? And I'm a sales guy. And it was just a terrible experience. And I actually went to the VP of sales and said, I think we made a mistake, man. If this is how we're going to do this, and I need to understand these formulas, then it's not me. I'm probably not going to work out for you. So let's figure that out. And he was taken aback by that. But when you hire somebody that wants to get going, and we don't get them going, that's what happens. So, I mean, in a great economy, what would I have done? I probably would have left and gone and found another opportunity. So that's something we need to think about. We want to get this onboarding right. So the numbers here of 4%, they leave like in the first couple of days. That's a sizable amount of people that make a quick decision because we give them a terrible experience, and then that number exceeds 20% within that first 45 days. So if we don't get this right, we have a chance to really screw things up. So these are just checklists of things to think about. You want to write these down. These links are available to you. But internal stakeholders, who are the other people within the organization that need to help you be successful with the onboarding? Might be department heads, right? You might have a finance department that they need to spend a little time with. I've got HR, I've got payroll here, IT, our leadership. Don't forget the leadership of the company, the president, the VPs, whatever that is. They need to put a touch in here. They need to, go have a cup of coffee with the person. They need to give them some of that story. So get that done early, get them on the calendar. And I'm suggesting that we calendar this stuff for the first couple of weeks, right? We book them up. We're like, here's the things that you're going to do. It's on the calendar. When they turn their computer on, boom, they know what they're doing. We don't need to make it so that they don't have a second to breathe, but we should have this organized so that all of the people that are going to interact with them are prepared, right? They're not, going to another meeting and only give them 5 minutes. And if we really want to do a good job, we want to tell them what they should be doing. We want to help them understand what our objective is. So as we dial in our onboarding, these are things that we get better at. The speed of management is what paces the rest of the team. That starts from the top. The CEO, the president, the business owner, right? The senior sales leader. We're the ones that are setting the stage. And, we're going to lead by example, and we should be ready for that. What I'm giving you here is a sample email template that can be used in a couple of different ways. You can send this out to the employee as a reminder. Hey, you're going to show up next Tuesday. Here are the things that HR is going to need. Here are the things that we want you to think about. Here's some social media stuff you should follow, right? Whatever that might be. But I'm kind of giving you some basic structure here. Have fun with it. Be creative. Let them know what they should be thinking about and what they can start to do to be prepared, right? It gets them in the right space. And we're not asking them to do anything that's egregious or difficult to do, but we're engaging with them to make sure that they feel like we care and that we're looking forward to this. Some of the things that I've seen get left off is like the person shows up and there's no desk, there's no office, right? Whatever that is in your world. In the hybrid world, they still need stuff. They still need a computer. They probably need a phone. Some of you still use business cards. It's a nice little feature that you can show them that they're on the website, if that's appropriate within your world. That the calendar and the email should be up and working for them. If you have a learning management system or you have some sort of internal structure, servers that they need access to, having all of that ready for them is a bonus. It just makes us look better and gets them engaged more quickly. Because what's our goal with the salesperson? We want them to ramp up. We want them to get that pipeline built. So everything that we can do to make that happen, that's what this checklist is, that we can be prepared for them in the front end. Again, schedule out at least the first week. One of the discussions we had in the VIP is that they have an intent where they have somebody go to lunch with them every day of the week. And I think that's a great idea, whether that's the sales manager to kind of debrief and sort of pre-call what's coming up. Sometimes I would take them out. I would ask the president to take them out. I would go out with one other or two other salespeople with them at some point during the week, kind of start to build that camaraderie. Whatever is appropriate, right? We live in a hybrid world. We live in remote stuff that might be harder to do, but even a virtual coffee is a great way to to keep that going. So get that scheduled, get that planned. And again, this is a little bit more complete list of what we can do. And this, when you use this document, this link, you can check these off. You can change them. This is an editable document here. You can go and make this your own, and just have it as a checklist for you. And you can also just create a Google Doc or a Word doc, whatever's appropriate. The other thing here, I think, is if you have a mentor system or if you have a rep that's going to help them guide them through, get that organized and make sure we clear about what that person's going to do, what that person's going to, how they're going to engage with them, what their responsibilities are, and the CRM, make sure that that's set up so that they can get in there and start poking around, especially if we're going to give them their targets and we can start to identify who those are in advance. That's really great. They can get to work. Some extras here that I've seen clients do, that I wanted to throw out. A welcome card for the team that did the hiring, right? That might be two people, it might be one person, but a little card sitting on their desk or sent to them that says welcome, we're looking forward to this. It's a nice little touch, meaningful in this world of millennials and intrinsically motivated folks. Sometimes there's a breakfast. If the orientation is going to be a little bigger, we can start with that. I have a client who put together this swag box that had all of their stuff, right? They had some water bottles and notebooks and pens in there that they set them up with, and this one had they had their own internal little, one of their core values was to make it fun. So they had created this little logo. So they sent out a t-shirt for the salesperson, but they also sent a t-shirt to his wife and his two kids. And they thought that was cool. Like, dad's doing this new thing. So they had pictures, of them, posted on social media with all wearing it sounds goofy, but it goes a long way to get that person bought into and get them excited about coming to work for you. And that's important these days. It's important to hold on to these guys and gals. Again, the t-shirt, whatever it is, book the coffee meeting early with that executive leader, that CEO. I think that's an important thing to do. We want to make sure that they have playing a role in the story, what they think is important, what they're looking for, what they've seen people fail. Get all the internal resources taken care of. So that's the pre-boarding. This is what we want to get all of this done before you bring the person in. Right? These are just some ideas that I think are important and will help you be more successful with your onboarding. The other thing that I think is, I alluded to earlier, is how we differentiate ourselves, how we tell this company story. And I don't mean the story that people put into their PowerPoint about the history of the company and blah, 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 right? Nobody cares. What I'm talking about with a company, it's a company sales story. How do we go to market? Who's our, not just our persona, but who's the person we work with? What do they care about? What are their problems? What context do we need to talk about their problems? What questions should we be asking them about, right? We should know that as leaders in an organization. Somebody in the company has that data, and we need to give that to the salesperson as quickly as possible, because they need to understand that and learn it so that they can go out and be effective, because this is all about getting them ramped up quickly. So if we're giving them that information, and that means that they can get out there second, third week, even if they go out with somebody, They can go out and be participatory in that meeting. We want them to be part of this and be able to talk about it. So if we've taught them something about the company, they should be able to play a role in those first meetings, right? And there might be meetings that we're going to bring them into that are already started. The relationship is there. There might be some discovery things that need to be going. Wherever we are, we need to help them understand that. So the company story, that messaging, those problems, the positioning statements, the 30-second commercials, whatever you call it, that should all be there, and we should get them, and we should be role playing that and telling them those things. But this differentiation list here are things that you can think about to start to get those creative juices flowing if you're not already doing it. And if you are, maybe there's some ways to tweak it and make it more meaningful so that it lasts. Involve your team. Get them into a sales meeting with the rest of the folks and talk about this stuff. Talk about how the salesperson A does it versus salesperson D, right? So I look at this messaging sort of like jazz. And you may or may not resonate with you, but Miles Davis played the trumpet. Dizzy Gillespie played the trumpet. They play two notes, and I can tell the difference between Miles Davis and Dizzy Gillespie. The sound is different. They could play the same song their way, but it's different, right? The notes are all there, but it's them. And that's how I like to get salespeople to buy into our message. You're going to play these notes. You got to hit all the notes. You can't screw around. You can't go do this one second and this one third, right? You're going to play these notes in this way, but you make it yours. Tell it your way. Put your personality on it, right? Share these thoughts, right? It's we're not robots. We don't, and our customers don't want robots, and we're not for everybody, right? And it's our job. No bad prospects is one of the things I was taught. It's just bad salespeople, because we have to adjust to them. So if we give them the information, it's easier for them to do their job. If we give them that information, it's easier for them to go have those conversations. And if we have a sales process and a methodology to use, then we're giving them a leg up on our competition. We're building this language as to how we talk about things. So differentiations here. What's your brand promise, right? What's your difference? I told you a story before where we competed against large companies, and I would say like 97% of what I do is exactly the same as all those folks. So can we talk about the 3%? Right? And all of a sudden the people were like, yeah, okay, this is different. This is refreshing. And then I would give them my differentiation. Now I had to figure that out. It took me, 9 months to get there. But, if we can shorten that time up and give them that information, we're leg up. Again, who the customer is, what are their titles? What are all of their titles? Because not everybody is in the same exact title, right? You got chief revenue officers, you got chief money people, right? Head of people. It was an HR person the other day that I saw, right? So just kind of get them to understand what that looks like within your industries. Don't assume that they get it, because that's always a bad precedent. Our approach, how we go to market, our sales process, our buyer's journey, however you want to look at it, get that down, help them understand it. I know some of you, we've talked offline, about 3 of you, and you each have different levels of training that you provide your employees, but get them to understand how you use your CRM. It's not about putting in data and filling out a report to me. It's how do we enter this information so that it helps us close the deal? How do we advance the deal? How do we know what we're supposed to do the next time we call them? When we're prospecting, sometimes we're going to ping them again in 2 months, right? For whatever reason. If we don't have the data in place, we got to remember that. And that's dangerous. And what happens if somebody leaves? So we have to help them understand why we want the data in there. It's not micromanagement. It's not about these are our people, not yours. This is like, we need this to help you help us, right? Because then it gives us some insight as to what's really going on. I think another area that's often forgot is who's our competitors. I've referenced that we were a small family business and we were competing against these little companies like Siemens and Tyco and Honeywell. And I'm being sarcastic, but that's important to understand. And how do they go about, winning business? What's their strategy? We should know that to a large extent. We had some competitors who they would buy a job, right? And knowing that they could buy the job and that they would make it up on the change orders, they knew that was part of their strategy. They'd buy it on bid day, but they knew that they had all these change orders and it would come through. And the way we went to market was ethically, like, if there's a change order, this is the number. It doesn't change if you're stuck or not. We're not going to screw you. We're not going to overcharge you. And I remember I told somebody, like, look, you missed 26 rooftop units, which translates to 26 times $480 for the components that are missing. I didn't put them in my bid, but I'm telling you what that is. If you hire those guys who are going to be cheaper than us and they're going to go grab this job, they're going to charge you $3,000 per unit. And the guy's like, nah, they're not going to do that. I'm like, okay. So I circled back with the guy on another project a couple of months later, and I was wrong. They didn't charge him $3,000. They charged him $5,000 each. And it was a lesson learned for him, and a deal lost for us because I didn't differentiate. I didn't explain how that worked. I didn't give them the name of somebody who had already gone through this. So how do our competitors behave? How should we talk about that? What's important? Is it important for that we don't speak poorly of our competitors? So whatever those are, I'm just giving you a list here. And this is really important. And I bring this forward in interviews in the later stages. What's the expectation of this rep? What do you want them to do? How are you going to hold them accountable? What are those KPIs? Break it down for them and be crystal clear, especially at the beginning of onboarding. This is how we're measured. Every month, every week, whatever that is, tell them. Break it down, show them the spreadsheets, show them how it gets measured, show them where the data is put in. If they have to do it, if you're running EOS, you're using 90 where you have to put these things so that we know if they're on track or off track, tell them. Don't let it be a surprise. Go through and do some goals. Do a goals workshop, and help understand what motivates this person, how you're going to need to talk to them. Again, the assessment tells us what that looks like. But if we don't document what those goals are, we can't leverage their goals when it comes to reaching their revenue numbers. And I think that's really important. If somebody tells me they wanted to buy a new house and they were saving to get a new house and it was going to take them 2 years to get there, great. What do we got to do to get you that extra $100,000? What do we have to do? Let's build it into our KPIs and our numbers, right? We want you to get here, but you want to get here. Let's help you do it. So let's mark that. How are you going to? And then later on, it's like, man, you had to make 30 calls to get to the number, and you only made 15. Like, how are you going to do that, right? It's a leverage point. It's something that we can talk about if we've defined it and we've helped them see this. So again, checklists, right? You have to make your own onboarding process. It's got to be yours. But I think that we can do a better job to be prepared. And I would also ask you to think about it this way: you're never done. You're always looking for improvement in this process, and it always can be improved, right? You're always going to learn something. Technology, what resonated with some salespeople might not resonate with others. I think those are all things that we want to be able to pull together and keep analyzing this. And part of it's another checklist I use, the VIPs get, but it talks about going back and doing debrief as we've gone through this graduation process with somebody. Like, how did this work? What really got you going? What helped you? What did you struggle with? What do you think we could have done better? That debrief part, valuable for you to improve your onboarding process. So again, the graduation component here, let's define what that means for them. It could be 30 days. It could be 45 days. It could break it into segments. I have a client that likes to look at the world in 2-week windows. So they have a step that they get done in the first 2 weeks, and then there's another 2 weeks, right? He gets it all done in 8 weeks, but he breaks it into chunks of 2 weeks. It's his preference. It works for him. But it's defined and everybody understands it before they start. The foundation needs to be there. You can't build the house without the foundation. And even if you got a house and the foundation starts to crumble, we got to go back and fix that. So these are things that we can continue to work on. These topics, I've alluded to a few of these, but this goal workshop component, if you're not doing that, I would encourage you to think about it. Think about what that looks like. There's it's something that we do with folks to help them go through a process. We have a workbook that we give to the salesperson. It has one section in it. And what we tell them is like, here, this data, yours, go figure this information out, complete this. And then this section over here, we're going to work together. I don't want to know the personal stuff. I don't want to understand any of that. But what I want to do is like, you have a number you need to get to, right? For whatever reason, they want a certain amount of income. They need a certain amount of growth. So we're going to work with them to get to that. So that's the growth workshop. How do we get them to achieve their goal if they don't know what it is? And so many people don't have written goals. So many people haven't really thought that through. They're just going to go and wing it. So part of our responsibility in this onboarding piece is to get that right from the beginning, instead of having to go back later and work on the goals workshop. The ideal client profile, how we talk to them. I think we've covered that. Really, really important. The way that you go about prospecting. What are the methods that work for your world? What do we know that works? What do we know that doesn't work? Really important. If somebody thinks that they can go out and spend 2 hours a day on LinkedIn liking posts and making comments, I think there might be some value in that. If you spend 15, 20 minutes at the front or the end of your day. But it's not really a prospecting proactive issue. So we should define what those are for people and get them to understand what works and what doesn't work. And it's, I think, our responsibility to ask them if they have any bright ideas, and if they think there's something that should be added to that, and then discuss it at the beginning and let them know that we've done that. Here's the results. These are the things that work. Sometimes there's 7 things, sometimes there's 20 things. It doesn't matter. But get them to work it. Get them to be part of their plan to make it part of it. Your process, your tech stack, really important for them to know how to use it. And I think the why is important. The why we're doing this. Why is this our buyer's journey? Why do we use this sales process? Why do we use this methodology? What's important about it? Well, we need to tell them. It helps us close business. It helps us talk about our business. It helps us sit in the same room and use the same language. We need to record these things. I've seen people just bury their head in a CRM and think they're busy, and that's not the objective. It's about documenting some things that are important to track our KPIs and track our progress. And sometimes we need to tell them that. Sometimes we need to coach them that they have to do it when they don't think they have to and they don't want to. Sales management plays a big role in onboarding and the long-term success of a candidate. Excuse me. So I would discuss that on the front end. When I'm hiring a salesperson that I'm going to manage, one of the things I say to them later in the stage is that we're looking for salespeople that have responsibility. They're going to hold themselves accountable. They're going to hold themselves more accountable than I will, right? We want that kind of mentality. I'm not looking to babysit somebody. If I got to ask you, did you do your 25? Did you do your 10 before 10? Whatever it is. If I got to keep hounding you to do that, like I probably have the wrong person. So I want that to be crystal clear with the prospect from the beginning. I wanted them to understand my management style. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have an accountability meeting the first week of the month. We're going to talk about whether we hit our revenue numbers, right? And I can knock that out in 15 minutes, right? Because either they hit their number or they didn't. They got a pipeline it's in the right hygiene. It's where it needs to be, or it isn't. And then I got to go to the next level, right? And look at what they're doing and what they're saying. But if they hit their revenue number and it looks like they're going to hit it again, I'm not going to keep busting their balls. Give them some freedom. Give them some success. Pat them on the back, right? That's an accountability. That happens in the first of the month, right? And then you have your own cadence for how you deal with things, the second, the third, the fourth. One-on-ones, your coaching style, what you're looking for. Can they come to you at any time? How did they make appointments with you? Can they call you up? Is it a Slack thing? Whatever your rules are, get that out so they understand. Early on, we want to include a bunch of role plays. We want them to be practicing. We want to hear them do it. We don't want to just trust that they got it. And you'll see progress. Working with a salesperson just earlier this week. 2 weeks ago, great job with his positioning statement. The next week, I don't know. He just didn't. He thought he was done, right? He didn't have it. It was awful. He knew that we had another meeting. We were going to talk about it. And I told him in the next week, it's like, look, you went way off of where you were. You dropped it. And I think that's because you haven't been practicing. You've got to own this, and it doesn't ever go away, right? So the next week he came back and it was back on par. It was where it needed to be. All right. So we're going to keep after that. And if once they understand this cadence is there, it's consistent, they buy into it. They want help, they want support. But if we don't tell them what it looks like in our place and how we have to, how we do it, then that's on us. And I think the other thing that we can do here is leverage our vendors when it comes to some product training. They might have videos, they might have a learning management system we can leverage to talk about our products. We can show them things. Our customers can take them around and show them what they're doing and how they're using it, right? All of that is really hands-on product training, important to learn. They should be experts, but I'm going to encourage you, and some people are going to push back on this, that isn't where we start. It's part of it, but get them into the sales process, get them into the messaging, get them to know who they should be talking to. Because if they're talking about product in this early stages, they're not doing it right. Right? We don't want to be talking about product. We want to be talking about the prospect and what they're doing, finding those compelling reasons that they're going to get them to move the needle. So the graduation requirements, tell them what those are at the beginning. Again, these are some fundamentals here. There's some basics that you want them to get. If you don't tell them what it is, you're not being fair. Extras that we've talked about in the past, different stages here. Check-in questions, really important for the sales managers, really important for leadership to come in, as we're going through this process. What did you learn? What surprised you? What made you uncomfortable? What didn't you really understand? Right? And don't take the pat answer. Don't just accept that everything's great. This is awesome. I'm really excited about this. No, tell me what you're really thinking. Dive into it. Don't treat them like a prospect. Don't let them off the hook. And managers, sales managers, and sales leaders. These are things that they can do. Get them out of the office. Go for a walk. Go grab coffee. Do it in between appointments. Whatever your process is, fill this in. But make sure you're debriefing these guys on the front end. So again, these checklists are designed just for that, to help you have some ideas to put this in place. I don't think onboarding, again, doesn't ever stop the tweaking of the process. We're always looking for ways of getting better, and we need the feedback from the candidates to help us get better. So, we're in the fifth day. We're here. We got about 8 minutes left. And I think you have everything. I'm not going to review what we did at the beginning here, but you've got this onboarding component down to start thinking differently about onboarding and how important it is. So you have what you need. Some of you are going to feel comfortable, like I'm just going to go take a swing at that. Some of you are going to want some additional help. You got all the tools. I made this offer yesterday of all of the components that we're willing to do. Essentially, we're going to walk you through everything we've done with greater detail. We're going to help you create the kickoff of this. We're going to get the team together to help them understand why we're doing it this way. That they need to understand the why. Anybody that wasn't part of this conversation, they need to understand that this is important. And sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's three, it doesn't matter. But like we work through that. We talk about how we use the assessment. We're going to talk about the templates. What do we need to do to get that done? It's not our first rodeo. We've gone through this, and it's never the same. That's what makes it fun for us. We've got the same buckets that we check off, but we're looking to help you make this yours. So again, this is the silly offer that I've made. I guarantee you this offer won't be here at the next challenge I do. For the reasons that are obvious, but I put together a couple other bonuses. I wanted to make sure you understood there's a guarantee associated with this. If you secure a license, that and you're working with us, that these 92%, if they don't make it, they don't hit the numbers in that 6-month mark, we're going to give you that person back in your license. We're going to give you that shot again. You got to have a license valid, and we'll give it back to you so that it doesn't burn a spot. We can go through this together again. The bonuses here, normally we do one big kickoff. I'm going to extend that here to help a team. Like let's plan this out, and then get another team to kind of do a review. I think that's a little extra that really gets this solidified, gets everybody's questions answered. And then I have an academy that we're constantly building. I'm actually rebuilding it right now, where we have some podcasts in there that don't hit the market or hit the market early, that have some value. We've got some courses that we're rebuilding that'll be in there. So if you wanted to learn about accountability, how we do it, there's a small course in there that we charge for, but it's part of this academy. And we're going to give you that time as part of this package. So you have what you need. I want you to commit, no matter how you approach this. I want you to commit to stop hiring people that are like, oh, I hope this guy's good, or I hope this gal's going to be able to get it done. If you're questioning your judgment, then we might be. It's always a risk, but if they've gone through this process and you've discerned their abilities through the ideas that we've shared in this challenge, and using this assessment and any other interviewing techniques that you use, there should be a high level of confidence. It still go wrong. We get it. They're people. We're not dealing with machines here, but we've provided you with some guidance on how to minimize that risk. I have a podcast. You can go find it wherever you get podcasts. But we're doing this. I'm switching this up, where we're going to be interviewing just CEOs. So the podcast will be called Sales and Cigars with CEOs. So I'm going to interview CEOs in a way that will help add value to the audience. And we're building quite a good audience of sales professionals, of sales leaders, and CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business owners. So it's another way to go find some value from what we're doing. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm constantly posting there, and I do very little asking. I do a lot of helping. Sort of my idea of like, let's just give it what we can do, and if you want help, you'll ask. I've enjoyed this. I find these fun. Like I'm not big at getting on a stage. It's not my forte. I'm more of like intrinsic guy. Like I'm happy to stay on the sidelines. But I love this sales hiring process. I believe in it. I love talking about sales and sales process and understanding, why our sales team's performing and why they don't. It's my thing. It's my passion. That and cigars. So if you're a cigar person, let me know. I've got my own cigars branded that I send those out, and sometimes I send out some coffee that I've found here that's roasted in Michigan. That's pretty cool. So thank you. Appreciate it. Look into the LinkedIn groups for the Sales and Superstars, the Facebook group. Follow me on LinkedIn. Easy way to keep in touch. Thank you. Best of luck. There is one last thing I'm going to put in the chat for you. This link. So they just got somebody yelling in my ear about the application process to go do this. The application process to get in on this deal, right? This deal will close sometime late next week. But if you've engaged with this application process and answered a couple of questions, we'll put you into this into the group. And here's the link. You can do a screenshot of this. I'll email this out to you, but this is the way to get into the process to go grab that deal. You'll get an email on this, but we don't take everybody. I want to make sure that people are serious about making a change and serious about wanting to hire the right salespeople. So go check this out. There's a couple of simple questions that we ask, and then we have a conversation and we see if we can help. And I tell you, half of the people I talk to aren't really serious about it, and we don't take people that we can't get over the finish line. Thank you much. Have a great weekend, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon. Take care.